So
yeah, I think a cue, is just that, right?
Yeah.
We place probably too much value in it. Stay over the bar. It's like
Yeah.
until someone does that and experience it, they experience it for themselves, then they say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's what they were telling me for the last 3 years." But then it, like, for them, their interpretation, they might have different words that they would choose, or they would say, "Oh, he didn't really mean for me to stay over the bar. He just meant like I need to pull the bar up maybe a little bit higher before I start to drop down underneath the bar," whatever the thing is, right?
Yeah. That's the bane of every coach's existence is like, you tell somebody something for 5 years, you're like, oh, you gotta like pull like this or do that. And then some other coach walks in and says the same thing differently. And then something that's like, oh, you're worthless. Fuck that. This guy's better.
Right.
Yeah. It's super frustrating like that in weightlifting. You get a lot. People too get to that like the epiphany moment you're talking about, where like they chase that. And like that's a lot of epiphanies in the beginning, and then they start to dry up. You just don't have them, 10 years into the sport. You're not going to like suddenly like, oh, now I get it, or oh, that's so different. But some people get stuck on it and they don't move past that, and they get into this phase of training where it's just like everything they're doing is like trying to discover something new. Oh, I move my feet in the start position an inch, or I change my grip, or I change that, or like they just constantly are searching for it, and it almost like prevents them from being making progress, because they're just like, oh, he's doing something a little bit differently.
What do you think about that in terms of Olympic lifting? Has that viewpoint changed at all? Because it sounds like you had so many failures. You failed at 700 pounds many, many times. Has your view or vantage point on how often a lifter should fail, has that changed much in Olympic lifting? Or because Olympic lifters, you see them miss and miss and miss and miss, and you're like, what kind of fucking training session is going on over here? And I don't know much about Olympic lifting, so I always kind of was puzzled. Like, why do they keep missing? Like, why don't they just lower the weight and maybe do it the right way, and then maybe go back up again? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, if you were to like chart on a graph, like the number of missed lifts 10 years ago was way higher than today. Like, I think a lot more people are just smarter about training in general. This is the case across both sports, really across everything. The YouTube has created so much. She's rubbing off on me, right? Just renewed our AARP
Grandma
card.
over here.
But yeah, it's like the amount of good information that exists now. You have powerlifters that come in. It took me years to get good at squatting, to squat big numbers, because I squatted like an idiot for so long, right? Just doing, a program that was not the right program. Now you have people like every 15 minutes there's some kid who's 12 years old squatting 450, right, or whatever, and they're just like, and they're training smart and they're training well because there's so much good information. So in weightlifting, it's definitely trended that way, where there's way more just quality coaches out there and way more good knowledge. So like you don't get those like insane programs that exist where it's like, oh, we just train as hard as fucking possible, and like 25 misses is like a sign of like, yeah, you're doing well. This is good. You're on the right track. People are just way smarter.
Yeah, and if you miss with 60% because you're trying a bunch of different stuff, that's probably quite different impact on the body than if you're at like 88% and you continue to miss, right?
Yeah, I think it's like if you're missing is composing like most of your training, that's what you're going to be good at. You're going to be great at missing.
Power Project family, how's it going? I want to talk to you guys about Within You supplements, which is developed by Mark Bell. The cool thing about Within You is that it's not a crazy supplement line which has a crazy amount of unnecessary supplements. They stick to what is necessary. Whey protein, electrolytes, and the electrolytes are dope because they have amino acids and they have zinc. Then there's fasting gum. So we talk a lot about intermittent fasting on the podcast, and this fasting gum has apigenin, rutin, and caffeine, which can actually help you prolong a fast. It's really freaking cool. It was developed by Mark and Joel Green, who we've had on the podcast multiple times. So you guys got to check it out. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah, I think like in the gym, we rarely let people miss more than a couple times.
Yeah, 20 or 30 is the limit.
like twice, because in a competition you get 3 attempts, right? Hopefully you make all 3 of each lift. You get 3 at snatch and 3 at clean and jerk. So we rarely, if somebody's really close, they're going for a PR, you might let them take 1 or 2 attempts.
Yeah.
Also, a plug for the AI, because the AI is interactive. So it tells you when to go up. Like you get to rate it. You rate every lift you do with like 3 white lights, 2 white lights, 3 reds if you miss. So, and then it'll tell you what to do next. So it tells you, it's kind of neat. It's like having a coach there where like sometimes we go off program because somebody's like hitting, like they're just 3 whites, like every time their technique is on, they're making every lift. It'll be like strike while the iron's hot, and it'll have them go up.
How about those overzealous lifters, though?
Yeah, so it's an interesting system because what it does is, one, it records it, right? So you have a record of what you rated, right? And what you can do is look back at somebody's results and be like, what happened here? You got a lot of, you're rating these wrong. Like you can actually show somebody proof that like you're an idiot.
Okay.
Right? Which I think is like, when you talk about it, right? If you just, in my training, if I had to write down in a journal how every set felt and why I went up, like what was the decision for going up or down, like, it's like there's a lot of denial there. Yeah, I grounded it out. My eyes popped out of my head, but I put 20 kilos more on and missed it, and shit myself a little bit. And then below that, no one watched. People were disgusted that I was in the gym. But it's like when you basically force somebody to just take a moment to actually like internalize and assess what just happened and like how it felt, it makes a big difference in training. They become invested in it. They become aware of whether they're being honest about their ratings and their assessment of the lifting. And if you're just training, you're just like hammering your head against the wall, and you're giving it good ratings, like obviously you're in denial.
Well, if you miss and you don't give it 3 reds, then you probably need to go back to school or something. So
you guys got any fear of Skynet becoming fully realized, like in Terminator, like where the AI starts to take over?
That would be the hope at some point. just some kind of AI just kills us all.
It takes over for you guys and just generates money.
Yeah, that would be the real hope.
It runs the whole business, not just
it fires
the algorithm of lifting.
The first thing it would do is fire both of us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It is algorithmic, like lifting programs are pretty cool because like when you think of different sports, when you think of track and the level of intensity they have from session to session, or jiu-jitsu or whatever, or all these different sports that are so variable, it seems like with powerlifting and weightlifting and pretty much any lifting kind of sport that it's rated by numbers. Peeps, we love bringing you all this fitness information, and we also want to help bring that information to more people. So if you could help us out, hit that subscribe button and then hit the notification bell, and we'll continue to bring you the heat. And I won't whisper in your ear. Talk to you guys later.